Right, so it's a lovely sunny day today, so I thought it'd be a good day to do a video. This is my 5th video, and basically all I want to achieve is I want to pass on some of my knowledge and hopefully teach you some of the very, very basic Shaolin Kung Fu that I learned at Chun Sei Dao Kung Fu School many moons ago, as Grandmaster would say. So today I'm going to go over what we've already covered in the first, second, third and fourth video, and I'm going to add something else on. I'm going to show you whipping branch blocks from horse stance, or in horse stance should I say, which would be the next move that you learn. And then I'll show you eventually, not yet, whipping branch blocks moving forwards. And then we'll be moving on to snap kicks, which is the first kick you learn in Chun Sei Dao. Like I say, they're all very, very basic moves, but they get you moving, which is good, because obviously it gets you exercising and it gets you moving your body in a different way to the way you may be used to. I know it certainly did me when I was very, very young. When I was first being taught these movements, I think I probably was thinking, what the hell is he showing me how to do this for? And eventually you understand that it's good to move and it's good to exercise, because it makes us feel good. And if you're like me and you think a lot, it pauses your thoughts for a bit, gets you away from your mind and into your body. And I think that's important. My dad used to say, listen to your body. And I think it is important that we listen to our body, because if we do listen to our body, it can tell us a lot. It can tell us maybe what we need to do. And in some cases, it might actually give you an idea as to what nutrients you need. And that might sound a bit far-fetched, but there was a time when I was craving for beetroot. And beetroot, as you might know, it's got lots of iron in. And then many years later, someone said to me, let me look at your eyelids. It's a really random story. So I did. I showed them my eyelids and they said, it looks like you're anemic. And I don't know whether you know, but anemia is an iron deficiency. And I was craving for beetroot. Well, that just goes to prove that, but it proves to me, that if you do listen to your body, it will tell you what you need to do. Because obviously something in my body was telling me, you need more iron. Which is nice, because it's good advice. And advice from yourself is always useful. Anyway, I'm going to get on with it. I don't want to talk for too long. What I will say is, when you're at home and you're training, you can train any way you want. And you can wear anything you want. I mean, if you want, you don't even have to wear any clothes, obviously, as long as you're not in the back garden. You're not going to upset the neighbours. Someone said to me, oh, why don't you wear your... Someone recently said to me, why don't you wear your Kung Fu uniform? And my answer to that is, because I don't need to. I don't need to put my Kung Fu uniform on. I spent 12 years in the army wearing a uniform every day. And, saying again, I don't really feel like putting my Kung Fu uniform on, if I'm honest. It might look good, it's not going to help me train. But what I will say is, if you do go to train in a club or a school, you will be expected when you get to probably your first grade to invest in the correct attire, and it's to show that you're going to be respectful of the discipline, because everyone wears the same uniform, much like in the British Army, and it looks good if everyone's all wearing the same thing. It's uniformal. But as I said, for these videos, I might one day put my Kung Fu uniform on and be dressed in the correct attire, but at the moment I'm not going to. I'm going to wear what the hell I want. I hope that doesn't offend anyone, and if it does, well, that's a you problem, not a me problem. Anyway, I'm going to get on with it. Tilt you forward as I always do so you can see my feet. I'm going to use the full length of the garden because the lawn's been mowed. I'm going to have to be careful near this tree because you poke me in the back of the head. So first of all, we can go into a position of attention, and then we can take a bow. And then from here we go into a horse stance. And then from here we can do twist punches, so we go into a twist punch position, and we're just going to do 10, like so. I'm going to count for you this time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then from here we're going to bring the fist back to hip, because now what we're going to do is we're going to go into a forward fighting stance. Very, very simple movements if you watch and you listen. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to step back with the right foot, as we always do. We move the right foot first and go into a forward fighting stance like so. Branch sticking in my head. Ooh, nearly poked me in the eye then. Be careful if you've got trees in your garden that you don't have a branch poking you in the ear like I have. And then all we're going to do is move forward in forward fighting stance like so, and as we step forward we change the hands, remembering that the rear hand at the moment is the left hand is going to hover above the solar plexus, and the front hand, the right hand, is going to protect the face. So it needs to be high, obviously, because it's important we protect the face, but also it's important that we protect the solar plexus because we can't develop muscle there. And if we can't develop muscle there, if someone touches us there, it's going to cause us a problem. And we're going to move forward again. And again. And then from here we can turn. So as I said before, we're going to pivot. So we're going to pivot so our rear leg is going to face the other way. So it's at the moment the left leg, which is the rear leg, is facing that way, and the right leg is facing towards you. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn our feet like so. So they're basically going to do the opposite. So this right leg, which is facing forward, is going to turn that way, and the rear leg, which is facing that way, is going to turn to face the opposite direction, like so. And then we can move forward again, and again, and again, and then we can turn. And then from here what we can do is we can do like we did in the previous video. We can move forward with a twist punch. So this rear hand that's hovering above the solar plexus is going to become a fist, and it's going to be thrown at shoulder height, and we're going to throw a twist punch moving forwards like so. And then the same as before, if we want to turn with the feet, we're just going to turn the feet in exactly the same way, but this time, because we're obviously throwing punches, we need to change where the hands are again, like we did in forward fighting stance, but this time this fist is going to come to hip like so, and this other hand, the one that was at the rear, the one that was at the hip, is going to become a back fist, like so. And then we can move back the other way using thrust punches. And turn. We'll do that once more. And then turn again. And turn. And then from here, all we're going to do is we're going to go into a horse stance, moving the right leg, and then go into a position of attention, again moving the right leg, and then we can take a bow. Okay, so that's all we've covered so far. And like I say, I know it's very basic, and if you've done other martial arts, you might say, it's a little bit boring. But the thing is, it's a little bit different. This style of Kung Fu, Shaolin Kung Fu, for me, is different to anything, or should I say, any other martial art I've ever learned. I'm not saying the other martial arts are wrong, because in martial arts, there's no bad teachers. Sorry, I got that wrong. There are no bad martial arts. There's only bad teachers and bad students. All martial arts are good. There's no right or wrong. They're just different. So what might appeal to one person might not appeal to someone else. However, this is my foundation. So this is where we will begin. Okay, I'm going to show you the whipping branch block now. Again, it's not complicated. However, as far as learning Chun Sei Dao is concerned, it's very important. So, I'm going to just get on with it. So again, we start in a position of attention, as we always do. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to shuffle this way a little bit, because I'm going to move my right leg, and that will mean I'm in the centre of the camera. So from here, we're not going to take a bow this time, we don't need to. We're just going to move with the right leg to go into a horse stance. And then from here, we're going to go into a whipping branch block position. Like so. So it's very important you understand what we're going to do here with this block. So this left hand is going to block a strike towards the head, and the right hand is going to block a strike coming in towards the groin. And all we're going to do is we're going to swap the hands. So it's important that we move this hand away, the lower hand away as it comes up, and that allows the hand that's coming down to come inside it, like so. So I'm showing you it nice and slow so you can see what I'm doing. Obviously we can do it a lot faster, and in reality, if we were in a fighting situation, we would be moving the hands a lot quicker. But it's important to notice the position of the hands. So this hand that's blocking any strikes to the head needs to be high. So this elbow is actually at a 90-degree angle, like so. And you might notice that the wrist is also at a 90-degree angle, because if something comes in, we need it to stop. If our hand's here, it's going to still come through. So this is actually going to trap the strike that's coming in towards it, if that makes sense. So it's important that we have strong wrists, because we need to be able to hold this hand in this position like so. This low block that's coming down, it's very important that it does come low, because as you can imagine, if someone tries to kick me in the groin and I pull this block short, it's ineffective. So all we've got to think is, how do we make these techniques effective? So this is why it's very, very important to understand what we are doing, what we're trying to achieve. Yeah, because this is no joke. In fact, it's really not a joke. If you ever come across someone that's really, really angry and they've got no control over their temper and they kick you full power, say for instance they play football at a decent level and they kick you full power between the legs like they were kicking a football, it can actually kill you. So this is a really important block as far as self-defense goes, because it could save your life. And I know that sounds a little bit drastic, but it's the truth. A very powerful kick to the groin can cause internal bleeding because there's an artery that runs through here. Don't ask me the name of it because I can't remember. It's not important. Well, it might be important to some people, but it's not important for this lesson today. What is important is that you understand that if we don't do this block correctly at a time where we really need to do it correctly, it could be the difference between life and death. And like I say, it does sound a bit drastic, but sometimes it's good to think in a drastic way because it makes you do things correctly. So I'm going to teach you how to do it now. So we start here, and all we're going to do is, as this low hand comes up, it comes away from the body and it swaps like so. And remember, this hand protecting the head needs to have a 90-degree angle from the arm, and we also need to have a nice angle there at the wrist, so the palm's actually facing up to the sky. And it looks like this. So what we do is fist to hip, and we're going to a whipping branch block position like so, and we're just going to do 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then fist back to hip and go back into position of attention, and we will take a bow. Okay. So one of the other things that I want to talk about today is breathing. Breathing's very important because it keeps us alive. So we're going to start thinking about the way we breathe. When we're relaxed, breathing's quite easy. So it's very important that we relax and stay calm no matter what happens. Eventually, if you do decide to get serious about training in Shaolin Kung Fu, some people might find it a little bit unnerving that you're very relaxed and very calm all the time. Well, at least you appear to be. Because what's going on is, it's like an undercurrent. So there might be lots of thoughts and lots of feelings going on underneath your exterior, but you appear to be calm. And it's because this is the first thing when you start to freestyle spar. I was taught that no matter what happens, stay relaxed. And the reason for this being is, if we don't, it's very hard to control ourselves. However, when we're relaxed, the body works a lot more effectively. We don't need to be uptight and angry. We don't need to let our emotions control us. There's a saying, the dog wags the tail doesn't wag the dog. And it's a weird saying, but it's very appropriate for this lesson. So we learn how to control our emotions, and we learn how to stay calm. And I believe the best way to do this is to focus on the breathing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through very, very basic breathing exercise with you now, and I hope that you all find it useful, because if I ever feel a little bit out of sorts or a little bit under the weather because I'm stressed out, I can always do this, and it calms me down, makes me feel better, and I hope it does for you as well. So we go into position of attention, and for this we're not going to go into a horse stance. Well, we are going to go into a stance, but it's a shallow stance. In fact, arguably it's not a horse stance. So we're just going to take the right foot out, and we're going to go into what we'll call a very shallow riding stance. It's almost like you're getting onto a bike, yeah? Obviously we don't do it like that. We just step the foot out, nice and shallow, yeah, nice and narrow. So about shoulder width apart for this one. So remember, when we breathe, we're going to move this time. So we're going to synchronise our breathing with the movements of our hands and our arms, like so. For this, we're going to breathe just through the nose. So we're going to keep you're going to keep your mouth shut. I'm going to be talking, so I'm going to keep my mouth moving, because it's hard to talk with your mouth shut unless you're a ventriloquist, which I'm not. So I will be talking while we're doing this. So from here, all we're going to do is we're going to close the mouth, and then we're going to put the tip of the tongue onto the roof of the mouth. Okay, and we're going to just breathe through the nose. As we move the hands, I'm going to tell you which way to breathe. So we're going to synchronise the breaths with the movements, like so. So we're going to breathe in through the nose, and then as we breathe out through the nose, we're going to sink into the knees, softening the knees, and then breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in, 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 breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. And then bring the right foot in, take a bow. I hope you'll manage to follow me okay in that Qigong pattern, in that breathing exercise. I feel really calm now, and I hope you all do. Remember, play silly games, win silly prizes.